Here's part 5 of our conversation with Marc Jordan. I'm John Beaudin from Rock History Canada.
Okay, I'll put you on the spot. Ian Thomas. I think one of the most underrated artists in the history of Canadian music. How long have you known him? How did you meet him?
I met him years and years ago. I met him when we were both first starting out. He was very young when he started, though. Like, Ian was on the radio, when I was, I think, still maybe trying to get out of grade 13. But Ian started young, as did Murray, and they were on the radio. And Ian is brilliant with a capital B, as you know. He's a brilliant producer. He's a brilliant songwriter, and he's almost an essayist in a lot of ways. His songs are very, very logical, and they make sense, and he really says things, and he's got a lot to say. He's got a lot, he's a comedian as well. He's so funny, and he just has a brilliant mind. He's a wonderful singer. He takes his voice for granted, but he's a terrific singer. He's a great player as well, and he's one of my best friends, and I love him. But you're right. You know what? You're right. But there are so don't get me started on this. Canada just does not celebrate its own greatness in the arts, not just music. For Christ's sake, they're trying to get a theater and music school for in the name of Oscar Peterson. That's a no-brainer. But hello, it's very hard to get these things funded. Oscar Peterson, hello, a giant in music, whatever music. Cliff, he was a monster. And, he's just, they named a street after him, I think, in Mississauga, a big deal. But this, Canada has to, every other country celebrates its artists and its actors and its painters. Canada just takes it for granted.
When I was starting the project of underrated albums, there's always that, bittersweet feeling of approaching an artist and saying, by the way, we're making one of your albums the most underrated album of all time. I remember I contacted Jude Cole, and he said, yeah, sure, I'll do it. But he says, it's never been put to me that way. And I'm going, well, I just think if an album, even if it's sold, it should have sold more. I always look at it that way. More people should get, or let's take another look at it, right? But I came upon so many Canadian albums, it was crazy. And Ian Thomas was one of the major artists. Murray McLauchlan, now here's another guy who I bought a lot more of Murray's music when I was growing up. And he was another one of those guys who made me cry, tell me about your relationship with Murray, because I'll include this clip in their special as well.
Yeah. Well, Murray, he was very, very young when this guy was he left home when he was 16 or something. He literally rode boxcars from one end of this country to the other. That's the kind of thing Murray did. Murray also has a brilliant mind, and he's a painter. And he's a musician. I would say he, too, is an essayist with his lyrics. I'm much more tangential with my stuff. But Murray, in a couple of his songs, has taken photographs, Canadian and Toronto culture, that are so vivid and so right on. Down by the Henry Moore and the one about the Embassy Tavern, and they're so vivid and they're so well done that it just blows my mind. I feel very, very lucky to play with both of them. I really do.
Well, who came up with that idea? How did that come to fruition?
Well, someone approached Murray. I think this is how it happened. someone approached Murray and said, "You want to do a songwriter show, like concert with?" Murray said, "Well, I'll do it if I can pick the writers." So he picked me and Ian and Cindy. So we didn't do it as a songwriter circle. We all played on each other's. We all learned each other's songs. And there was an agent in the, I think it was for maybe the Juno Awards. It was like a pre-ceremony or something. We did it, and there was an agent in the audience. He said, "You want to?" He says, "I could probably, it's very terrific what you're doing. You guys sound great together. Why? You could probably get you 4 or 5 gigs." Well, that was 10 years ago, and it just kept going, because it all works because. First of all, Cindy Church has an amazing voice. She glues it all together harmonically. Murray is Murray, Ian is Ian, and I'm me, and we play as if we're a band. So we got a lot of hits between us. So it's like it's a real interesting show, I think, for people. I've gotten new or renewed respect for the three of them because they are really, really pros and really, really good at what they do. And now that I can be a sideman, and I get to play their stuff, and I realize how good it is.